Have you ever noticed that some managers avoid accountability conversations for way too long and then suddenly come down hard when they finally hit their limit? And when that happens, everyone feels it. The person getting called out feels blindsided. The team feels the tension. Morale drops. Trust gets weird. And the manager walks away thinking, why is accountability so hard? But that is usually not the real problem. The real problem is that a lot of people think accountability has to feel harsh in order to be real. So they swing between being too soft for too long or too tough too late. And neither one works. Because if you avoid accountability, standards drop. But if you handle it badly, morale drops too. That is what we are talking about today. Today's episode is about how to hold people accountable without killing morale. Because strong leadership is not about choosing between kindness and standards. It is about knowing how to protect both at the same time. Before we dive in, I've included links in the description to free resources that can help you grow in your communication, leadership, and confidence at work. And if you want to go deeper into strategic thinking and leadership, you can also check out my book, The Strategy Blueprint, a step-by-step guide to building your company strategy, available now on Amazon. Now let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Work Chat, where we help you navigate the modern workplace with more clarity, confidence, and influence. And today, we're talking about one of the most uncomfortable but important parts of leadership: accountability. Almost everybody says they want a high-performing team, but the moment accountability starts feeling uncomfortable, awkward, or emotionally charged, a lot of leaders back off. They delay the conversation. They soften the message too much. They hint instead of saying the thing. Or they let small issues pile up until they become bigger than they needed to be. And then when they finally do address it, it comes out with more frustration than clarity. That is when accountability starts feeling like punishment instead of leadership. So let's clear something up right away. Accountability is not about making people feel bad. It is about making expectations real. That is the difference. When accountability is done well, it creates clarity, trust, fairness, and stronger performance. When it is done badly, it creates fear, confusion, resentment, and low morale. So how do you hold people accountable without damaging the team in the process? The first thing to understand is this: low morale is usually not caused by accountability itself. It is caused by inconsistent, unclear, or emotionally sloppy accountability. That is the real issue. Most people can handle clear expectations. Most people can handle direct feedback. What people struggle with is mixed signals, when they thought they were doing fine, and suddenly they are in trouble. When the standard was never clearly stated, but now they are being judged against it. When one person gets called out and another person gets away with the same behavior. When the conversation feels more emotional than useful. That is what kills morale. Not accountability. Bad accountability. So the first principle is this: make the expectation clear before you enforce it. This sounds obvious, but a lot of leaders skip it. They assume people should just know. They assume professionalism is obvious. They assume urgency is obvious. They assume quality is obvious. They assume follow-through is obvious. But if expectations live mostly in your head, you're going to end up frustrated, and the other person is going to end up confused. Accountability gets much easier when people know what success actually looks like. What does good performance mean here? What does on time mean? What does ownership mean? What does strong communication look like? What happens if something slips? Clear expectations make accountability feel less personal because now you are not arguing about feelings. You are talking about agreed standards. That shift matters because people are much less likely to feel attacked when the conversation sounds like, here is the standard, here is where the gap is, and here is what needs to change. The second principle is this: address issues early when they are still small. One of the biggest mistakes leaders make is waiting too long. They notice a problem, but they tell themselves it is not a big deal yet. They hope it will fix itself. They do not want to overreact. They do not want to seem too critical. And they want to keep the mood positive. So they wait, and wait, and wait. Until now, the issue is bigger, their patience is thinner, and the conversation has more emotional charge than it should have had. This is why accountability often feels harsher than it needs to be. Not because the issue is impossible to address, but because it was left alone for too long. Small corrections protect morale better than delayed blow-ups. A quick, calm conversation early on is almost always better than a heavier conversation later. That might sound like, I want to flag this early so it does not become a bigger issue, or I do not think this is a huge problem yet, but I do want to address the pattern now. That kind of language keeps the conversation steady and normal. It says, this is leadership, not drama. The third principle is this: focus on behavior, not character. This is where accountability conversations often go wrong. Instead of addressing what happened, people start labeling the person. You are not committed. You do not care enough. You are being lazy. You are unreliable. The moment you move from behavior to identity, the conversation gets heavier and more defensive, because now the person does not feel corrected. They feel judged. A much better approach is to stay anchored in observable behavior. Not, you are careless. But this is the third time the handoff went out with missing details, and it is creating extra work downstream. Not, you are disengaged. But in the last 2 team meetings, you seemed unprepared to speak to your updates, and that is affecting confidence in the work. That kind of accountability is stronger, not weaker, because it gives the person something concrete to respond to, and it protects morale because it avoids unnecessary shame. The fourth principle is this: separate respect from comfort. This is such an important leadership mindset. A lot of managers think, if this conversation feels uncomfortable, I must be damaging morale. Not true. Discomfort is not the same thing as disrespect. You can have a very respectful accountability conversation that still feels uncomfortable. In fact, if standards matter, some discomfort is normal. The goal is not to make hard conversations feel easy. The goal is to make them feel fair, clear, and constructive. That means you can be direct without being cold. You can be firm without being humiliating. You can hold the line without making the person feel small. Respect sounds like, I want to be clear with you. This matters. I believe you can correct this. We need a different result going forward. That is very different from either avoiding the issue or unloading frustration. The fifth principle is this: make accountability forward-looking. A lot of leaders spend too much time proving that the problem happened. They over-explain the issue, rehash all the frustration, and stay in the past too long. Yes, the person needs to understand the gap, but after that, the most important question becomes, what needs to happen next? What changes now? What does better look like? What is the expectation going forward? What support is needed? How will progress be measured? Morale stays stronger when people leave an accountability conversation knowing exactly how to recover. If the conversation only creates guilt, it drains energy. If it creates clarity and next steps, it builds momentum. That is why strong accountability is not just corrective. It is directional. It helps people move. The sixth principle is this: be consistent, or the team will stop trusting the standard. This one matters more than people realize. Nothing damages morale faster than selective accountability. If one person is held to the standard and another person is not, the team notices. If high performers are expected to carry more, while low performers are constantly excused, the team notices. If leaders say accountability matters but only enforce it when they are annoyed, the team notices. And once the team believes the standard is inconsistent, morale starts falling for a completely different reason. Not because accountability is too strong, but because fairness is too weak. Consistency builds trust. It tells the team that expectations are real, that performance matters, and that no one has to quietly carry what others are allowed to ignore. And that is actually good for morale, because high morale is not the absence of standards. High morale is what happens when people trust the standards are real and fair. And that brings us to the deeper truth underneath all of this. A lot of leaders think morale comes from being easy on people, but long-term, that is usually not true. When poor performance goes unaddressed, when missed commitments keep sliding, when unclear ownership becomes normal, the best people on the team do not feel protected. They feel drained. They feel resentful. They feel like leadership is not really leading. So yes, accountability conversations can be uncomfortable, but avoiding them does not preserve morale. It often quietly erodes it. Because healthy teams do not just need encouragement, they need clarity, they need fairness, they need follow-through, they need trust that what matters will actually be upheld. That is why the best leaders do not choose between standards and morale. They know how to build morale through standards. They make expectations clear. They address issues early. They focus on behavior, not character. They stay respectful without avoiding discomfort. They make the conversation forward-looking, and they stay consistent. That is what real accountability looks like. Not harsh, not vague, not performative, just clear, steady leadership. That's a wrap for today's episode. If you want more practical support, I've included links in the description to free resources on the website, along with my book, The Strategy Blueprint, a step-by-step guide to building your company strategy, available on Amazon. If this episode resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the Work Chat for more practical conversations on workplace communication, leadership, confidence, and navigating the modern world of work. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What do you think makes accountability conversations feel hardest at work? Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode.